Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. Today is our Fusion 360 workshop hosted by Autodesk and our expert Gabby here. This is part 2 to help you design and build your gliders for our glider competition. That will be starting at the beginning of March and going on for about 2 weeks. More information to that will be coming. So follow us on our social medias and look on our website. Once again, thank you very much for coming. Gabby, thank you very much for your work and everything you do for our workshops. And I'll hand it off to you.
All right, thanks, Kyle. So we're going to start off today where we left last workshop, and it's just creating this airfoil. We talked a lot about lofts last workshop, and we're going to continue to talk about lofts today. So I think where we left off is a little bit ahead of this, but I'll just backtrack a little bit and go into more detail. So I started with inserting this canvas, which is just an image file, no dimensions to it, but it gives me a canvas.
Sorry, Gabby.
Yeah.
We can't see your screen.
Sorry. Great. Thank you. Sorry. It's been a long day. There we go. Right. So this canvas, this canvas here that we were saying, same one we were using last week. So what we did last week was we created a sketch on top of the wing over the canvas to mark out where the wing was. And then we created lines to denote where we wanted the different planes to be. And then we created planes at each of these locations. That's what all this is for. And then on those planes, we imported these DAT files, which contained point data for airfoils. So we were able to have those on each of the planes. And then the last step is to loft between these airfoils so that we get a nice wing shape. And the reason we imported it on each of the planes was because we were able to scale the imported DAT file to the length of the chord. Now the chord is basically the distance from here to the end. So from one tip of the airfoil shape to the end, other to the end tip of the airfoil shape. So as you can see on this wing, that chord length changes as you go down. It's going to get smaller as you get down the wing. So that's why it's important to import a different DAT file for each one that's able to be scaled versus just copy and pasting the same one over and over again. You could copy and paste and then scale down, but that scale down is going to be a percentage, not a specified chord length. So, for example, I could have copied and pasted this one, moved it to the next surface, but then I would have said, okay, scale down 20%, but that wouldn't have given me an exact result. So it's not a great solution. So that's why I made all these planes and I imported it each time onto the plane with the scale. And I was able to do that with a plugin, which I talked about last time. So now the next step is to make a loft between them. So there's a couple different types of loft, and I'll do a solid loft first. That's what we talked about last time. But essentially what we're going to do is pick each of these profiles, and I'm going to hide the first sketch, and I'm going to hide the canvas just so we can see what it's doing better. And I'm picking each profile here. Make sure you pick the profile and not the points. And now we have this nice wing. So one thing you'll notice here is that I was able to rotate the foil. So when I put in this DAT file with the profiles, I was able to rotate them slightly. So the first one is rotated up, the angle of attack is high. So what that means is that, if this is horizontal, the angle of attack is something like that. It's an alpha symbol, I believe. Which way? Is this alpha? I think so. And we want it to be high or higher, and then we're rotating it down. I believe that's how I did it. Now it's been a couple weeks, but I believe that I have it. Or on, actually, let me scratch that. It might have been that I put a negative angle of attack and then I slightly rotated as it went down the wing to be a positive angle. But the point is that I took each of those DAT files with the point profile of the airfoil, and I rotated it slightly each time so that I got this. It's not a straight loft. It's going to be slightly curved. So let's see if we can see that as we do this. So if we hit OK, now we have this solid body. Okay, so there's a solid. Let's do a inspection, so section analysis. And let's go down. Oops. Hit OK too fast. Like that. Let's just run down. Yeah, so it looks like subtly it's oops. Let's actually go through the other way here. Okay, yeah, it's much easier to see from this side. So it seems like the tail is coming up as it comes down, the wing. So yeah, it started with a lower angle of attack, meaning the nose was pointed downwards more. And then as you went to the tip of the wing, the nose was rotated up a little bit. So that's a really nice thing with loft too, is that it doesn't all have to be straight. You can have each profile be unique, and it will create a shape between the two. So you get to build in the curves that you want. Okay, so that's a solid loft. And there's really nice things about solids, right? You can come in and maybe you want to fillet this edge. So maybe you want to put like, that's too big, it's a small thing. Let's see. Sorry, let's fillet something else. Okay, that's gonna work. Sometimes, it's not able to fillet really small features because it self-intersects. But here's a good example. So, you can add a fillet here. Solids are really good for that. So it was a tiny straight edge before, and we added a fillet on that top edge. So that's pretty nice. And with solids, you can do anything you want. You could, in the solid space, right? You can cut holes in it. You can shell it. Like here's another one. So if we do a shell and we select, oops. That's fine. And we select this face. Let's see if it's going to let us do it. No. There we go. So here's an example of another solid tool, right? We can basically make it a really thin surface. So we can shell it. We could combine it with other solids. We could make a number of other things that would attach to it. We could mirror, we could pattern it. So you have a host of solid workspace tools that you can do. However, solid does have its limitations. So one of the limitations of the solid workspace is that if you want to go in and just make an edit, so I'll pull that shell back. Let's say you want to make an edit, you want to basically take this edge or take this face and make it a different shape, right? You want to add some, maybe you don't want it to be so sharp, you want it to come out further, and maybe curve up a little bit. So to do that in solid, you would have to, make another sketch, maybe extrude it or set up another loft situation, and then add on to it in that way. And that's a little bit of work, but I'm going to show you a different way. So if we go back, and instead of doing a solid loft, right, to make it into a solid, we go in and we take the same profiles, but instead we're going to do a surface loft. So a surface loft, it operates in the same way. It's in this surface tab here. And instead of hitting the, I guess we could hit the profiles, but we don't need to. Solids need closed profiles, but surfaces just need edges. Like, it doesn't actually have to be closed. It could just be a straight line. Oops, I don't want that point. Be careful about hitting points. Sorry, you got to be consistent. Either click all profiles or click all of the inside of the curve. So I'm just going to click all the edges here. And we should get, it looks similar, except that it's not a solid body. So it looks similar, right? But it's just a surface. So remember, if we did that inspection analysis before, we saw solids all the way through. Let's do a surface. Sorry, this is just an inspection analysis. So here, now you see if we just cut through, I'm going to hide these sketches. It's just a surface on the inside. It's not, there's no solid body. And actually, it's not even a closed profile. This is open at the end. So actually, let me go in and make it. So let's X all those. So when I just hit the edge, the reason that happened is when I just hit the edge, it didn't chain the lines. So it just clicked the edge and not this little edge that connects the two. Oh, 1 second. Fusion just crashed. So I'm going to restart it quickly. Any questions about surfaces versus solids so far?
In a simulation, so if we're running a simulation in terms of fluid dynamics or such, would it matter whether it's a surface or solid? I'm guessing the weight would be different. So would that have an impact on the results?
I think they need to be. I think they need to be solids. But the thing is that surfaces can very easily turn into solids. Like you're using surfaces as a modeling tool, and then what you can turn your surfaces into solids. Yeah, you can stitch. It's called stitching. So, all right, let me share this one more time. So I'll show you how to do that. So we're going to start with surfaces, and I'm going to show you some of the power of that, modeling it as a surface, and then we'll turn it into a solid. So, 1 second here. All right. So surface loft. All right, so I'm going to hit the middle. I suppose I could hit the edge and just click chain selection, and then it would do the same thing. Whoops. But because surfaces don't need to be closed to work, like I said, you can just do a line. It didn't automatically do that. Okay, so is it getting that little piece at the edge? It is. It is. Okay. So now we have a surface body. And because we have a surface body, there's nothing on the edges. So we're going to come in and use a tool called patch. And it's going to patch that surface. So that's pretty nice. And we can have it, let's see, I don't remember if this worked. There we go. So we could also have it, have a different sort of tangency. So, you know, we can put this kind of patch on it as well. So if we hit OK, now we have a patch there. And for this side, you know, maybe we want, what would we want to do with this side? Well, actually, let's do this first. Let's create a mirror. And let's mirror these two bodies. And let's mirror them about this midplane. And then what we can do is another surface loft. Let's chain selection this time between here and here. So now we have kind of a multi-body, you know, we have 5 surface bodies all together with some interesting things. And the nice thing about surfaces here is if I want to kind of make a cutout or an offset or something, I can pretty easily do that. So I'll show you how, yeah, I guess the bigger point is that surfaces allow you more fine control of the surface itself, because if you think about it, instead of cutting into a solid, if you want to make a change, all you have to do is remove that section of the surface and there's no material underneath that you have to deal with. So, you know, I could come in and just like delete a face and it's not going to do anything to the body itself. It's just going to delete that face. Whereas on a solid body, I can't just come in and delete a face. It's going to have a really hard time healing that face. Like what's going to go there in its place. But in the surface world, you can just delete a face and then what's going to happen is there's just going to be a hole there. And that's okay. Like if I come in and I just click this and I hit delete, that's totally okay. It just deleted that surface. Now we're left with this. Whereas if I just deleted that, you know, if this was a solid and I deleted this end face, it would give me an error saying like, you can't delete a face because then we don't know how to heal the geometry, because you're dealing with a whole solid body, not just surfaces. So I'll show you kind of an example here. So, okay, so let's make a sketch on this plane, and I'm going to end up pulling it off of this plane. But let's say we make a slot. So I'm just going to keep it simple here. I'm not too concerned about sketching or the dimensions right now. Okay. So, oops, I forgot to do one thing here, which is I'm going to turn this into a 3D sketch by using the move command. So move copy, and I'm going to take, let's see, I'm going to group all these edges together. So I'll just copy them all. Oops. Yep, I just like selected them all, and then I'm just going to pull it up. So now it's not on that sketch plane anymore. I'm just moving it into 3D space. All right. So now I'm going to get out of that sketch, and I'm going to do a split face command. So face is to split, it's going to be this, and then my splitting tool is going to be this edge. So I'm going to say, I don't need to extend the splitting tool. It's just going to go through that surface, hit OK. So now I have, actually, did I want to do that? Yeah, I did. So now it's still in the body, but it's a different face. So now if I want to just delete this face, I totally can. Now I just have a cutout in in that wing. And I don't have to deal with any of the solid. There's no solid under it, so it's not going to give me an error when I try to do that. And now what I can do is maybe I want to make, maybe I want to have it come out a little bit. So I can use this tool called ruled surface. I'll select this and I'll pull it up, and it's going to make a surface that's normal too. Or maybe I want to go in. I want to go in the wing. So I can just rule that surface down. Okay. And then maybe I want to repeat that ruled surface and I want to just pull it in. And then maybe I want to delete this face on the bottom too. And then maybe I'll just loft. So I'll loft between that smaller arc or smaller slot and this larger slot on the bottom. And that's pretty easy to do. So that little sequence that I did there, where I did some ruled surfaces, I deleted a couple faces, and I did a loft, that would be pretty hard to do in the solid environment, right? It would probably be like sketching a profile, then doing a cut extrude, and then doing like a cut revolve on the ends. And it's you'd have to make a plane in the middle. It's easier to do this kind of thing in surfaces because you have more fine control of the surface itself without having to do with the solidness of it. Does that make sense to everyone around like the benefits, some of the power of using surfaces?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Anyone have any other questions about surfaces versus solids, when you'd want to use each? Okay, cool. So at this point, I'm going to. So now I want to make this into a solid. So let me patch this edge, and let me make sure that I'm going to change the patch on the end to be connected. Okay. Okay. And what is this? Mirror. Okay. I think it lost part of that arc. So at this point we have all these bodies, and they're all next to each other, but they're all separate surface bodies. That orange is a surface body. So if we select all of them and we go to the stitch command, it's going to stitch all the edges together. And once I hit OK, it's going to make a solid body. So you'll notice all the edges that are good are in green. If there's an issue, it's going to show a red edge. So we'll hit OK. And now it's a solid. I have one body, body 18. So starting with surfaces, but you can end with solids. And if I wanted to go like reorder the timeline, so like maybe, for example, I want to do that. I wanted to come in before I do that, and I wanted to mirror the last, like, I don't know, all these features I did. So I did a split face. I did a split face. I did a sketch. Maybe that. And then I did a patch. And then I want to mirror it about this face. They're going to let me do that. Compute fail. No intersection between targets. Oh, okay, so the issue is on the split face. Okay, let's try it this way. Let's do that mirror again. And let's mirror faces. Let's see if this works. This might not work, but that's okay. Interesting. Okay. Let's see. So I have not tried this yet, obviously. Splitting tool. Now if we delete, okay. So it mirrored the insides because that's what I asked it to mirror, but then it just didn't delete what was in there. That's fine. Cool. Okay. I'm gonna delete this. So again, I can just like hit delete on faces. It's super nice. And then I can do another loft. That's I think what I'm gonna do here. All right, so let's do that loft. And I'll loft that to that. Okay, so now let's see if that stitch still worked. Okay, so that stitch didn't work perfectly, probably because if I go in, I didn't make a solid body, and that's probably because I didn't include all these new faces. So let's come in and include all the new faces, and hopefully, there we go. Yep, back to body, one solid body. So okay, let's move on here. So now we have a solid, and I wanted to now show you a different type of body tool that we're also going to do some lofting with. So I'm going to show that canvas again. Okay, and I'm going to make a sketch on this plane, and I'm going to make a circle at the origin, and I'm going to sort of just approximate how big it is to approximate like the width of the airfoil at that spot. So I'm going to now turn on 3D Sketch, and let's make a circle again. Okay, so at this point you can see that I guess I'll hide this body. You can see that in the 3D sketch mode, it's giving me an option with when I have a sketch tool in my hand, like a circle, that I can pick different planes. So if I hit this plane, now when I make a circle, it's on that plane. If I hit this plane, it's now on the right plane. If I hit this plane, now it's on the front plane. So this allows me to pull it into 3D space. So that's pretty nice. Another option is I can make a circle. I want to do it slightly off the origin so it doesn't link. So I'm going to turn off 3D Sketch for a second. And I'm going to make the circle slightly near the origin, but not on it, just because I don't want it to snap. And I'm going to do the move command. So I just hit M. And I'm going to move it maybe here. And I'm going to hit OK. And I can, I'm going to make it horizontal vertical with this. So now it's moving, it moves those origins to the center. And maybe I want to hit a dimension between them. So maybe I want it to be 0.75. Cool. And then I'm going to come in here and I'll put a dimension on this one just to get it to about the right size. Oh, that's way too big. Maybe 0.6. Does that look right? It's a little off. Let's say 0.5. Okay, that's pretty good. I know the drawing's a little bit off center here, which I suppose we could remedy. maybe let's try to move it. So if we hit an edit canvas, we should just be able to move it in the, I guess that would be in the Y direction, maybe like 0.025. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, so now we have in a single sketch, we have two different sketch entities on different planes. And this is pretty different than the way we did it in the first lecture, where we made different planes for every sketch. Here, I made it in one sketch and I was just able to pull it to different planes. So now if I want to do the same thing, I can do the same thing a little bit off center. And then I'll hit move. And I'll move it down, maybe a little bit over. Okay. And then for the last one, I'll just hit Control C, then Control V. Actually, you know what? That's a better way to do it, because then I don't have to deal with centering it. If I just hit this edge and I do Control C and then Control V, it's going to give me the same one at the same point. And then I can just come in here and move it, and then slightly dimension it later. So let's do that again. So Control V, put another one, maybe further down, and then one more. Oops, hit enter, and then one more all the way at the end here. So let's make sure those are lined up. And of course, I'll dimension that, each of them. Okay. Oops. Dimension, so maybe 0.3. Dimension, maybe 0.45. And dimension, maybe 0.5. How does that look? So maybe it could be 0.43. Okay, that looks pretty good. So we could definitely do, sorry, one more thing. So I'm going to go back and edit that sketch, and I'm going to put in a point at the end, just a single point. So I'm going to turn 3D sketch on, then make a point, and I'm going to hit this top plane. So now I'm in 3D sketch mode and I'm able to put it right there. And maybe I'll add a dimension that just says it's 0.75 and it's vertical with that line. Okay, so now we have the perfect recipe for a loft. So again, we could do a surface loft, we could do a solid loft, but I want to show you how to do a form loft. So if we go back into the solid workspace and we hit this create form button, this brings us into a workspace called the form workspace, and it gives us a new toolbar, and it puts a purple 3D box on our timeline. And the thing about the form workspace is that it's super powerful and it's really different than everything else, right? It doesn't put anything on your timeline. It's not parametric. You can't record your moves in the same way and then go back and change them. Everything you do is like a one-time thing. Like you did it that, you made a move, and the only way to get back is to undo it. You can't go do 20 moves and then try to go change move number 3. So keep that in mind, but it's really cool in that it basically acts as clay in the computer. You don't have to do, to make complex shapes, it's very easy because you can just push and pull on surfaces and vertices and edges. So I'll show you what that looks like. You can start with any sort of primitive shape, but you could also do these extrude, revolve, sweeps, and lofts to start with. So I'm going to start here. So I'm going to do a bunch of these profiles. And I'll hit, I actually want more faces. Hello, okay, so I'm going to do 12. Okay, so now there's an open end. And we have it coming down to a point, so it did a loft. But the cool thing is that look what I can do. So if I right click and hit edit form, I can take just this face and I can pull it out like this. Like it's literally like clay. So maybe I want to do that. Maybe I want to do that. I don't know why I would want to do it, but this is a shape I could make. And let me undo that. And I'm going to add some symmetry. So circular internal. And I can add, do I want 8-sided, 4-sided, or 2-sided? So I think maybe I want 4-sided symmetry. So now anything I do to this side, so again, if I come in and edit form and I just pull this out, it's going to mirror it across. So what that looks like is kind of a bulge in the middle. So what if I go back and I change that symmetry? Whoa, that's not what I meant to do. Let's clear symmetry, and then let's do, clear symmetry. Let's do another one. I want to do 2-sided. Okay, so now if I come in here and I just want to show you how I would make this wing maybe. So if I come in here and I hit edit form. Oh, actually, first what I would do if I wanted to make this wing in the form environment is I'd probably split this face here. So I could come in and hit modify, insert edge, and I double click on this whole edge to grab the circle, and it would insert an edge in the middle. And maybe I want to move it down slightly like there. So at this point, to make that wing, I would come in and I would hit these maybe 6 surfaces, and it's going to automatically select them on the other side. Right click, edit form, and I can pull them out. And if I wanted it to not, I wanted it to be more abrupt, what I would do is I would hold down Alt, and Alt adds another face. So it added another face there. Wait, what did I do on the other side? Whoops, I selected an errant face over here. Whoops. Okay, so hold down Alt, drag out, and then maybe I want to scale it in a little bit. And then I want to do that again. So I want to hold down Alt, do another pull, hold down Alt, do another pull, and maybe I want to come back in here and readjust and scale it down a little bit. Maybe I want to move this entire thing. Maybe I want to come in and grab this edge and move that over. Same thing here. Maybe scale that out, move it. So you can kind of try to match it exactly. It's jumping in the 0.01. So yeah, that looks pretty good. Then I would come in and select those again. Hold down Alt, pull it out. Yeah, so you can see how with some concerted effort getting the shape right, you can get a pretty good shape for what you want to do. And in some ways it's a lot less work than a loft, right? With both surfaces and solids, you have to do the loft. It's parametric, meaning it captures all your history. With form, it doesn't capture your history, but you can make stuff really fast. It's taking me way sooner or way shorter to make this. And I also want to show you some other stuff. So like if I want to, maybe rotate this slightly, and then I hold down Alt again and I want to pull up. So I can come into 3D and then maybe nope, that's the #1 rule of form. No crossing the streams. This is crossing the streams. So I'll undo that last one. I'm going to rotate again. and maybe hold down Alt and do another one here, and then universal scale down. And it mirrored everything. Oh, it mirrored it to the wrong side. That's funny. I'm not sure why it did that. Let's go back and see. Oh, you know why it did it opposite is because it's on a circular mirror. So at this point, okay, so if I wanted to do that, I would clear symmetry, clear it for this body, and then I would add it back just as internal symmetry, not as a circular symmetry. So now if I wanted to go right click edit form, and I would select, you know, maybe just as 2, Alt, pull it up. Oh, no, I have to select. Oh, I have to select all 6. There we go. That's the mystery. Okay, if I rotate it slightly, hold down Alt, pull it up, rotate it again, hold down Alt, pull it up, scale it, rotate it. Yep, and then hit OK. So now it's going to do the correct symmetry. So that's the form workspace. It's pretty sweet. Note that if whatever you make in form comes out as a fully enclosed surface, like, you know, it's capped on all sides, it's going to enter into, you know, when I hit finish form, it's going to come into your design workspace as a solid. However, if it has any open ends, it's going to come in as a surface body. So right now, if I hit finish form, it's going to come in as a surface because it's not capped at the end. However, if I go into surface and I just do a nice patch, now I can stitch it, just these two, and now suddenly it's a solid. Okay, if I go back into that, or, you know, let's actually hide that, and I just want to do another solid there just to show you. So, okay, so let's do that same loft. So create loft. Loft, not that. I want to do the profile, not the middle. And I liked 12 again. And I liked, there should be, okay. Yep. Oh, and then a point. Okay. So if I come in and I add symmetry again, so internal symmetry, I'm going to do 8. That's going to do every single one. I'll hide my sketches. And maybe I want to modify and I want to insert edge. Where is that? Insert edge right here. Okay, so it's going to do that. And then maybe what I want to do is clear symmetry. And I want to just maybe pull these up a little bit. So edit form. And just slightly. Actually, maybe I want to do it to all of these. You know, maybe just kind of adjust to get a little bit of a different angle at the front. So that's something that's really nice with this form workspace, is if I wanted to edit this and it was a loft based on sketches, I would have to go back and edit the sketch and change maybe some guide curves. But here I can just pull and push. So now if I hit finish, I come back in, it's a surface. I can easily patch that. then I can easily stitch. And then once they're all solids, I'm going to show my wings. Once they're all solids, I can go back and do my solid and do my combine. And then I can just combine the bodies. Hit join. Now it's one body. So that's pretty cool. I think that's where we'll stop today. You know, getting some form tools, getting some solids, getting some surfaces. Keep in mind, you need solid bodies to do any simulation. And so you're going to end up wanting solids anyway. And then when you like go to 3D print or machine, you're going to have to work with solids. So all these are great tools to get there, and they make modeling in some cases much easier. But that's kind of the process. One more option instead of stitching things together is you can do something called thicken. So I'll just make a quick sketch kind of in space here. Yeah, so let's do, how do I want to do this actually? Okay, I'm gonna undo that. I don't want to do that. What I want to do is show you this. So if I make something on this this side profile, and maybe I want to make something kind of curved. So maybe I want to make a something like that. And then I want to copy it, and I want to paste it, and I'm going to move it over here, and that's good. And then I want to move it back over there. Actually, no, I don't want to do that. I want to maybe just move these points up. So I'll take this point, this curve, and I'll pull it up. This one I'll pull down. This one I'll pull up a little bit. Okay, so here, if I make a loft, a surface loft between those points, so again, it can just be lines, right? It doesn't have to be anything, right? So there's a surface. Right. I can easily come in and mirror that surface. Bodies, that surface body, and I'll mirror it across this midplane. They'll join them together. And if I come in and just change that sketch, it's going to change the surface. But let's say now I want this to be a solid. So I can take this body and I can do something called thicken. And thicken turns it right into a solid. So it's going to just basically thicken that surface. And now it's a solid. So that's another tool to get it into solid body land from surface body land. And I guess a third tool to get it from surface bodies to solid bodies that I didn't cover today is something called boundary fill, which I strongly encourage you to look up on YouTube, and just there's some quick tips for it. It's really cool. Basically, you put a boundary around all the surfaces, and then it fills in that everything in the middle of that boundary and turns it into a solid. Cool. I'm gonna stop there and take some questions for the last couple of minutes. Any questions about any of the things that we've covered today or last week or 2 weeks ago? Okay, Khalid says boundary fill super useful. Indeed. Pretty great. So Khalid can also show you. Khalid's volunteering. Cool. Other questions? Okay. One thing I would recommend, just like kind of a quick tip, is going and assigning physical materials to your parts. So if you hit physical material, you're going to get options for what is your part, right? So if you want some accuracy on there, like maybe you're making it out of ABS, you drag your ABS onto it. And then if you right click on the body and you hit properties, where is properties? Properties. It's going to tell you like weight or mass, volume, density, and that's all based on that property that you set. So it's, it's 0.947 ounce masses, which honestly, I don't even know how much that is. I would need it in grams or pounds. I guess it's just ounces. Oh, I guess it's ounces, ounce mass, ounces. Okay, so it's almost an ounce, which I'm guessing as Canadians means almost nothing to you. But anyway, you could change the units and have that mean something. And if you don't like how that looks, like maybe this is not nice because you want to render it, but you still want it to be ABS, but you want to kind of override this appearance of ABS with something nicer when you do a render, you can come in and modify the appearance, and the appearance will not change the physical material. It's just going to put a nicer thing on top of it. So if we maybe come into paint and we put in a glossy, I don't know, a glossy yellow, this is going to look much nicer for rendering, and then you don't have to deal with, but you still get the properties of ABS when you're going to simulate and you're going to figure out how much it weighs and stuff like that. All right. I think I'm going to end there. You all know how to reach me. You know my email, so feel free to reach out with questions. And thanks.
Thank you very much, Gabby. It was a very great workshop. And thank you for all the previous workshops as well. And thank you, everybody, for coming. Hope to see you at our future competitions and future workshops.